Foxes here, and today I want to talk about how I rank books on Goodreads. Well, we all know Goodreads, we all use Goodreads, and as you know, Goodreads uses 5-star system, which means that you're not allowed to give half or a quarter of a star, you just have to use a whole star. And I find it really frustrating, to be honest, because quite often I find that when I read the book, I get really excited about it and I think, oh, it's a 4-star book, but when I hit the ending, I realize that there is some stuff which is lacking, and it might be character development, it might be plot development, and I feel as if this book is definitely above 3 stars, but it's not a 4-star either. And at this point, I would prefer to give it 3.5 stars, but it's just not possible in Goodreads. When I have to rank a book on Goodreads, I usually go and pick whatever rating I feel is the closest to my personal one, and then at the top of my review I always put something personal ranking or personal rating, because you know what, quite often I'm not ready to give a full 5-star or full 4-star to a book. And I want to talk about it because I know that a lot of people go as low as giving, a quarter or even less of a star to a book, and it's just a bit confusing to me. I prefer not to do that unless I absolutely feel that this book does not deserve half of a star, so it deserves only a quarter of a star. And I just want to talk about the way I rank books in general. Let's start with 1 star. Well, I never give 1 stars to books, and the reason for that is because for me, 1-star rating, it means that the book is so bad that I couldn't finish it. And if I didn't finish it, I'm not going to rate it and I'm not going to review it. And so if you see 1 star, it means that I just made myself finish the book, but it was so bad that I wish I didn't have to finish it. So 1 star is basically a DNF, so did not finish. 2 stars. 2 stars is a book that I forced myself to read. 2 stars are usually the books that lack everything. Character development, plot development. The writing is so horrible is that I really have to push myself to read it. And I did read a couple of books like that last year and even this year as well. I do not enjoy reading or rating 2-star books. Very often I feel that whenever I get an arc, it's pretty much always a 2-star book for me. And it's not because there are no, very talented indie authors out there. It's not true. There are quite amazing authors out there that I received arcs for review and I thoroughly enjoyed their books. But I just feel that quite often whenever I randomly pick ebook arcs on Goodreads, especially in the communities, to review, they always end up being 2.5-star reads for me. 3 stars. 3 stars is a quite decent read. 3 stars is a book that I enjoyed. I didn't love it and I definitely would not want to own this book, but at the same time 3 stars is a quite decent read. It's usually the book which had a very good premise, but failed to completely enamor me. I read quite a few very good 3-star books, and some of them I actually have on my shelf here, but usually 3-star books are not the books that I want to own. They're usually the books that I get from the library. I read them and very quickly forget about them, to be honest. 3 stars and 3.5 stars are quite good books, but they're not the books that I'm absolutely in love with. 4 stars. 4 stars books are essentially 5-star books, but lacking something. I enjoy reading 4 stars books and quite often I buy them as well, but usually there is just little something that I would have changed if I could in the plot or in the characters, or it might be a small thing, it might be something in the ending, or it might be something in the way one of the characters was treated, or it might be in the way whoever the character ended up with, in terms of relationship. It's just one small thing something that I wish was different, but at the same time, it's still a very good book, very well written, very well done, very well executed, and I really enjoy reading 4-star books, especially when I get to read a book by the author that I've never read before and it turns out to be a 4-star book. It's absolutely amazing. I love 4-star books. I do buy them, but not as often because sometimes I do not tend to reread them. 5 stars. Obviously, 5 stars books are the best. These are the books that I usually absolutely loved in terms of the plot, character development, plot twist, relationships, absolutely everything. So if you take a book and tick everything that I want to see in a book and it gets like 100% out of everything, that's my 5-star book. And I have a lot of favorites, and I usually 5-star books are the books that I own and usually own more than one copy of. These are the books that I read more than once and I keep rereading them. That's why I give them 5 stars. Pretty much all of my favorite fantasy novels are 5 stars. Let's be honest. Whenever I feel that the book has a potential which may not have fully been realized in this book, and this is the book number 1 in the series, or if it's a standalone and I know that I had some issues with this book but some readers may not have the same issues, and I rate this book as say 3.5 stars, but I'm not ready to give it 3 stars because it was still good and it has a potential. Whenever I post my review on Goodreads, I usually pick 4 stars. I usually prefer to give a slightly higher rating to a book on Goodreads, especially to indie authors, just because I know that the books are recommended based on the ratings, and the rating on Goodreads is quite a good indicator of whether a book is a good one or not, and especially ratings on Amazon are also very important for sales. And whenever I feel that the book has a potential and that whatever issues I had with the book, other readers may not have the same issues, in this case I try to rate the book slightly higher. I always put my personal rating, the actual rating, inside of my review, but whenever I have to pick between say 3 or 4 stars or 4 and 5 stars, I usually go with a higher rating. Unless the book was so bad that we're talking between 1 and 2 stars, then I'm sorry, I'm just going with the lowest rating, because if I don't like the book, I don't like it. And there are books that I know have some problems, not only in character development but also like plot and language and style, and in this case I'm sorry, even though I see that there is a potential in there, I cannot rate this book as high as something else which is way better written. I'm sorry, but it is the way it is. I'm very curious about how you guys rate books on Goodreads. I got my Goodreads account years ago, but I started really using it only last year when I discovered BookTube, and I realized that I have a huge problem with rating books. I wish Goodreads would allow to give at least half a star to the rating, and the fact that I have to choose between 3 and 4 stars sometimes when the book is obviously 3.5 stars and there is no other way I would ever rate it, I am forced to pick either lower or higher rating that this book deserves. And you know what? I find it really frustrating. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. I'm just curious about how other people rate the books, because I personally tend to go with a slightly higher rating just because, especially with indie authors, I just want to give them a bit of a boost. But I want to know how you do that. Just let me know down below in the comments. I think it's a very good conversation to have, because everyone has very different ways of reviewing and rating books. I feel that personally sometimes I get very subjective, because whenever there is LGBTQ plus theme to a book, or there is a queer character in the book, and I feel that they the way that character was portrayed didn't give it proper justice, or it was not dealt with correctly, or there was some issue with the book and the book just did not deliver what I expected it to deliver. In this case, my rating just goes down. Whenever I see a minority group which is being made fun of or is not represented correctly or respectfully, it really irks me. And in this case, I just cannot. Even if everything else in the book was good, like say the plot or the language, if there is something there is some sort of injustice there which is not justified by the plot, it's just the way the author writes it just makes my blood boil. So honestly, I cannot take it. And I read a lot of books that have queer characters in it, and I have a lot of books that focus on the relationships of queer characters. And whenever I see stereotypes and whenever I see that there is no respect or there is a lack of objective portrayal of something, it just really annoys me. And that's why that always affects my rating. And whenever I see a female character which is also not being treated well, even if it's a part of the plot, sometimes it's just like, it's personal thing for me and I cannot handle it. You know, I know that there are a lot of people, and basically reviewing and rating is also very subjective, but I know that other people have other views or other pet peeves or other triggers, if you want to call them that. So I want to know what you think about it, and how do you approach books and how do you rate books, and especially the books that are a bit controversial. Another thing that I want to talk about is, how do you feel when you read a book which everyone was raving about and you realize that you hate it, that it didn't work for you, and there is a book that everyone is praising for its unique style or its language, and you see that it's horribly written? You know, I want to know, how would you rate that book? Would you be affected by other people's opinions, or would you just go ahead and slash it and go like, no, I hated it, and give it like 2 stars or something like this? Because I was in a similar situation and I wasn't sure whether I should give this book higher rating, or just because it's, you know, like peer pressure, I guess, or if I just give it whatever honest rating I feel that book deserves. So I want to know what you think about it. This is it, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. This is just one of the discussions that I want to have on my channel. Please let me know down below how you rate books, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.